Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Raw Prospect Podcast. Today is August 10th. I'm Emmy Nixon. He's Michael Ween. And today we're on episode
46.
46. Yeah, 44 away from 50. It's like the number just like amazes me at this point. Today we've got a lot planned. We haven't done episodes since the NBA restart, obviously. So we have all of the basketball to cover. And also, we will cover golf's first major of the year. The PGA Championship just concluded yesterday. And we're going to give our thoughts on that. And so stay tuned for that. We're just going to start with the golf, and we're just going to get right into it. I mean, Michael, what do you think of 23-year-old Colin Morikawa down the stretch yesterday?
Well, I'll get to that in a second because he hit some really clutch shots. I mean, that drive on 16 will probably go down as one of the greatest shots. I mean, I don't know a lot of golf history, but if that doesn't go down as one of the great shots on a Sunday at a major championship, I mean, I don't know what will. I mean, that was just incredible. But I want to start with the fact, I think golf is in a really good place because if you think about all the young studs, young players, like really young players that were in contention yesterday. At one point yesterday, let me find at one point on the back nine yesterday, four players under the age of 25 were either tied or within one shot of the lead. So we're talking about players like Morikawa, of course, who ended up winning it, Cameron Champ, Matthew Wolff, and even Scotty Scheffler. These guys represent the future of golf. I think three of the four have already won their first tour event. Champ has a couple wins. Wolff has a win. Morikawa has 3 wins, including yesterday. The only one to not win yet is Scotty Scheffler, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins a tournament in the near future. So, I mean, while names like Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, these are the names we typically think about, there are a lot of young and upcoming stars in the game of golf, and that just elevates the game to a whole nother level. And it's good for ratings too. But in terms of Morikawa, no. 129 total, 9 under for the weekend. I mean, that's incredible. He was first in 3 categories. I believe he was first in fairways hit. I forget the 3 categories. It was like fairways hit, something with putting, and something or other. But I mean, he was good all week. He's a great ball striker. He wins with precision. And to just show the kind of mettle that he showed down the stretch yesterday, with that iron shot coming up short right on 14 and then to chip it in for birdie. And then, to go to 16 and hit that drive that he hit that I mentioned earlier to 7 feet and make the eagle putt to go up 2 and break the tie, like the 7-way tie or whatever it was. And then to just come down the stretch and play smart golf, and he didn't seem rattled at all. It's just incredible. I mean, at only 23 years old, he's got 3 wins now, a major. He has as many major championships as missed cuts in 29 starts. He has 1 missed cut in 29 starts. So, I mean, this kid, graduated from Cal, got his business degree, was an All-American all 4 years. He's for real. He's going to have a really good career if he keeps this up.
Right, exactly. And you mentioned the young talent on the leaderboard yesterday. I think I was talking about this with my dad yesterday. I think golf is in such a great place, not only because of the young talent, but just the fact that all these guys are coming out of college ready to win. I feel like this is the first time in golf's history where you're getting all these young players coming out of college and winning right away. Normally, it takes some time for young players to make their way on tour and find where their game's at and get some footing. So I just think like all these young players, I just think it's so impressive. Like and it's just a testament to where the coaching and where everything is at in golf right now.
What do you think of just because it's Tiger Woods. What do you think of his play over the course of the week?
Um, I thought switching putters was a mistake,
Yeah.
and that didn't show itself much on the first day. He was pretty solid with the putter the first day, but it was pretty clear the last three that he didn't have the same feel down with that putter. And the thing he talks about a lot is releasing the putter head and getting it square on the way through. And you saw him push a lot of putts because he wasn't able to do that one way or another. It just wasn't the same stroke. So
Yeah, but I thought it didn't. It seemed like he was moving well all week, which was a good sign. Seeing his health seems to be in good shape. So, and he only has played one other event since golf came back in early June. So, you couldn't expect a whole lot given he only has um one tournament other than this one since February. So, given his age and his health, but I thought a positive was he seemed to move well all week and didn't seem to, you know, his back didn't seem to me the way he was moving. It didn't seem to be a problem, which was a good sign.
right,
But, just to wrap this up, Morikawa, I don't want to jump the gun here too quickly because he's young, 23, just finished like his first year on tour, but a 129 over the weekend, 9 under. I believe I have to look at the stat. I could probably pull it up while we talk about something else, but it's one of the lowest scores ever on the weekend at the PGA. Um, yeah, he's got some good competition and all these other young players, but the way he strikes the ball and hits those irons, there's no telling how many tournaments he could win if he keeps this play up.
right.
Uh,
Uh, just this was the first time that I can remember where basically a rookie on tour like in his first time being in contention in a major wins it right off the bat. So it'll just be interesting to see if he'll back that up with his play in the coming years or if he'll fall off a bit. But I think he will back it up. I don't think this was a fluke. He's got game for sure.
a second career major start. He comes down the back nine on and I don't know if you saw, but he had to work hard to save par on the first hole. He had to drain like a 25 footer just to save par and keep the round, going on the first hole. So the fact that he came out and shot, I don't know, what was it, 6 under yesterday
Right.
after struggling to make par on the first hole. You just saw his medal the entire round. It showed, and he was not rattled by anything. So, we'll have to see if this can continue, of course, because he is young, but 3 wins and only one missed cut and a major in your second start is pretty incredible. So,
Right. And golf is in a crazy spot right now because under the right circumstances, a player can win the Grand Slam in about 11 months. So if he stays hot, who knows what he could do?
right. I'm going to try and see if I can find the exact stat I was talking about earlier.
While you're looking for that, let's touch on Brooks Koepka for a second.
Okay.
He came in at +4 for the day, I believe. He came in as the favorite this week, and he played well until the front nine yesterday, where it seemed so uncharacteristic of him, though, where he just collapsed a little bit. Um, it was so surprising to me because I saw him as the guy that was going to be tough to beat, the veteran, two-time defending champion, but that didn't end up being the case.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw his comments. Kind of took a subtle shot at Dustin Johnson after his third round. After the third round was completed on Saturday, and of course Rory McIlroy came to DJ's defense and said, Brooks may have 4 majors to Dustin's 1, but Dustin has 21 career victories and a victory in like 13 straight seasons. And that's like 3 times the amount of wins that Koepka has, even though Koepka has the 4 majors that we all recognize. So, but yeah, I thought it was uncharacteristic of Koepka to come out and shoot, what was it, like +4 yesterday. He came into Sunday 2 back of DJ, and I thought, maybe he could make a charge because, he's been the guy that in the past, 2 years in majors has just been unrattled, not rattled by anything. He's just been clutch, pretty much every time. So, I mean, it was uncharacteristic of him. I thought during the week, coming into Sunday, I thought he hit his irons. I thought his irons were really good. I just think, the knee kind of worried me coming into the week. But since he finished second, was it second last week in Memphis?
Right, second place.
That gave me some hope coming in. But, you can't win every tournament. I mean, the last time someone won 3 straight PGAs was like 1950 or something like that, I believe. So, I mean, it's really hard to do. I'm sure he'll be in contention and, some of the other majors coming up. I'm not too worried about it at all.
Right. I'm not worried either. I just found it interesting. One thing is that in his major championship wins, like even though he had the reputation of being clutch and being solid, he would still come in a bit under the radar. And I feel like this week was the first time where he came in and he was just the headliner all the way through. And I think I don't want to say the pressure got to him, but I mean, I just found it interesting,
So before we close out this conversation, the stat I was trying to get off my tongue earlier, Morikawa's score over the final 2 rounds, 129, the 65 on Saturday and the 64 yesterday. That's the lowest 36-hole weekend total in major championship history. And he was just 1 off the lowest 36-hole total in major history, which was set by Koepka last year in the first 2 rounds of the PGA. So pretty incredible. And then he ranked first in strokes gained putting, driving accuracy, and approach shot proximity. So, I mean, if you lead the fields in all 3 of those categories, you're going to have a really, really good shot to win. So, I mean, congratulations to him. He's going to have a very good career if he keeps this up. So, with that, I think we should move on to our NBA conversation. We're just going to hit on – we did a contender, pretender a month ago before the NBA restart, but I think that we just touched on the Eastern Conference. So we haven't, talked about the Western Conference a whole lot in a hot minute. So I think we should start with that. So real quick, just your thoughts on first the hot topic in the Western Conference, the race for the 8 seed. Um, who do you think is going to end up in the 8 seed, and what teams do you think are going to end up in the play-in? Because with the Grizzlies loss yesterday, it guarantees that there will be a play-in for the 8 seed. So I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Um, well, I feel like no matter what ends up happening, I feel like the Trailblazers will be there. I think it ends up coming down to out of the three, which the Grizzlies, the Suns, or the Spurs, which of them would make it in to the play-in, whether it be the 8 seed or the 9 seed. Um, these are the four teams that are separated by a game, which is just wild to me. So, I mean, no matter what, there's no team that I'm hoping makes it in. I just want to see some good basketball. But if I were to choose, I would pick uh, Blazers and Grizzlies to make it. I think the Blazers will get the 8th spot, though.
I agree. I think the Blazers will get the 8 spot. They're 4-2 in the restart, looking really good. Dame, I mean, he just looks like it's Dame time. Um, you know, putting up 45 with like 13 threes or something crazy. 2 games ago, and then coming in last night against Philly and putting up 51. And I think the Blazers rank first in offensive efficiency, or no, points scored per game um, in the bubble. So their offense is on a roll. They have Nurkic back. They have Zach Collins back. That's really helped them. Melo looks locked in. What what else can we expect from Melo? I mean, he hit a couple big threes against Houston. He's looked pretty good. I mean, they're just everything's coming together for Portland. Now, I don't want to jump the gun. I do think they can be a challenge for the Lakers in the first round. But I mean, we look at their wins. They've beaten the Grizzlies, who haven't played well in the restart. They're 1-5. Um, they've beaten the Sixers, who were without Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, who got hurt like halfway through the first quarter. And then I have to look it up. They had that good win against Houston, but you know, 3 of their 4 wins have come against teams that were either shorthanded or weren't playing well coming in. So, I mean, Terry Stotts is a good coach. They have Lillard and McCollum. You add in Nurkic, who's been really effective. You have Melo playing well. You have Gary Trent Jr., who's come on as of late. Off the bench. He looks really good. So yeah, I think they'll get there. Um, I don't think they're I don't think the Spurs or the Suns can really challenge them in terms of talent level. If either of those teams were to get into a play in with Portland, but yeah, I think Portland's going to be there, um, given everything's coming together at the right time. So,
Right.
but
Um,
it's a very interesting race. I mean, the race for 8 is as good as advertised. I mean,
yeah, it's everything we could have hoped it to be. I mean, you just have to credit the players for coming back ready to go, and just the amount of uh, tough shots we've seen hit from all the stars and just everything. It's better than anyone could have hoped. It's amazing, this whole situation with the bubble. But if you look at the Blazers, obviously Nurkic coming back, he's averaging 18 points and 10 rebounds and 5 assists. I mean, he's been huge for them. I think it's not even just the stats though. From a scheme standpoint, he opens up their offense so much because of their handoff game. So he gets in with Lillard in the handoffs, and then him rolling to the basket puts so much pressure on the defense. Lillard is just able to quarterback and have so many options with the ball, and their offense is exponentially better with him on the floor. But as for them challenging the Lakers, if they do get to that point, I think it's just going to come down to can their bench hold up? I I think they would have a shot in that series, but there's a guy named LeBron James on that other side, and then he's hard to bet against.
Right. So with that, I think it's a good transition. We should talk about the Lakers. Um, their struggles have been, a hot topic since the bubble began, since the NBA restart began. Now they have clinched the Western Conference 1 seed, which I guess matters. I mean, it matters for what it's worth, even though there won't be like an actual home court advantage. But they do get to play the 8 seed, and they do get those matchup advantages. The offense is mightily struggling. They're scoring. I mean, you name a category, they rank the worst in pretty much every single offensive category since the restart. They're scoring 100.8 points per 100 possessions. That's last. They rank last in offensive rating, last in field goal percentage, last in three-point field goal percentage, and last in assists per game. So, and they're second to last in free throw percentage. So, I mean, like pretty much you go up and down the statistical categories, and the offense ranks last in every single one of them except free throw percentage. Now, the defense is they're still third in the NBA in terms of defensive efficiency. So that's, a bright sign. They, as you mentioned, I mean, are we really going to bet against LeBron James and Anthony Davis? Like, they can figure this out. But, I mean, I do see them still getting to the Western Conference Finals. But I think if they had to face the Rockets in the second round, that could give them some problems, because I think the Lakers don't guard the 3-point ball well at all. I don't have the exact statistics in front of me, but they have not been good guarding the 3 ball, and the Rockets can really spread you out. And if they get hot, there's no telling, that could be a really interesting series. But I'm still not going to bet against LeBron and Anthony Davis to figure this out and push this team to the Western Conference Finals.
Right, exactly. But one other thing, though, is LeBron and AD are going to be playing big minutes in the playoffs. And that's one thing we haven't seen yet in the bubble. They've been really careful about their minutes, and they've just been really cautious about everything that they've done in these seeding games. Obviously, because they clinched that 1 seed, but they need their rhythm back. And in these next 2 games, obviously tonight against the Nuggets and in their next game, they're going to need some kind of momentum going into the playoffs.
Let's talk about that other LA team, the Clippers. Do you think they are the favorite to come out of the West, or do you have another opinion?
I think they are the favorite, but I think it's closer than in my opinion, I think it's closer than some people might think. I think the Clippers are a step above the other top seeds in the West, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Rockets, but those teams have come back better, obviously, other than the Lakers. The Nuggets and the Rockets have come back in this bubble. In my opinion, they're better because now obviously the Nuggets have unleashed this secret weapon, Michael Porter Jr., and he looks great. And then the Rockets, this is like the first time I've ever said this in the Mike D'Antoni era in Houston, but they're fun to watch, and they get up like baseline to baseline so fast. They spread you out, and they're playing team ball for the most part. They don't even run pick and roll, and it's just the experiment is just something to see. It's just must see TV. Whether it works or not we'll see, but I'll give them that.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you. I think the Clippers are the favorites to come out of the Western Conference. We'll save predictions for this weekend before the playoffs start, and once we get all the playoff matchups, which will be determined here in the next couple of days. As I think the seeding games end on Thursday or Friday, so we'll get to all of that at a later date. But you know, they lost to the Nets. They lost to the who else did they lose to? They lost to some other bad team.
They lost to was it dang, they lost to the Suns.
Yeah, they lost to the Suns on an incredible shot. By the way, Devin Booker, I mean, he looks incredible. I mean, he's different. He is different. But no, I mean, they lost to the Suns. They lost to the Nets, who are basically playing with their G League roster. But it actually looked pretty good. Surprisingly good here in this bubble. But no, I don't think the Clippers really care. I mean, they're locked into the 2 seed. I think they have 2 priorities in these seeding games, and that's one, to become and stay healthy for the playoffs. That's number one. And number two is to get some team chemistry. Because before, they had the injury with Paul George and, a lot of injuries, and their top 5 guys hadn't really played a lot of games together. But when they have, they've been really good, and they've won a lot of games, and they have a great record when they play together. So no, they don't care about how many games they're winning or losing in this bubble. They're just trying to get some team chemistry and stay healthy. But I mean, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are both playing at elite levels. Kawhi's averaging almost 30 in the bubble, while Paul George is averaging 25. They're both averaging over a steal and a half per game, and shooting 45+% from the field and over 50% from 3 for both of them. So they're both playing at really elite levels. And the Clippers, when you want to talk about 3-point shooting, they're deep, and they have 3-point shooters up and down their roster. They're 22-5 this season in games in which they shoot 35 or more 3-pointers. So they can shoot a lot of them, and they make a lot of them. I mean, they're shooting 42.7% from beyond the arc this season. That ranks second in the NBA. So they got all that depth. They have a great coach. They have the 2 stars who are playing at elite levels. I mean, everything points to them coming out of the West, but you never know. I mean, it's 2020, and look where we are. We're playing in a bubble in Orlando.
Right.
So anything can happen, but yeah, that's my little.
We'll say this, like, obviously you saying they don't care how much they win. You're right, because the furthest they can drop is the 3 seed. If the Nuggets win out and say they lose 1 or 2 these next couple games, but the difference between the 2 and the 3 seed is just it's not relevant really. You're still not going to play the Lakers in the second round, and you're still would be in a good position to still make it to the Western Conference Finals. So you're right. Their concern needs to be getting Harrell back, getting him back implemented. and making sure they're sharp.
For the playoffs. Yeah, I would agree. Um, let's touch on the Eastern Conference. Who do you think do you think Milwaukee is the favorite, or do you think would you go with Toronto? Because Toronto, out of any team I've watched during this restart, maybe has played the best team basketball up to this point in the restart. So what do you think about that little race in the Eastern Conference between Milwaukee, Toronto, and even Boston?
Yeah, it's really interesting to me. This might sound crazy because I flip flopped on this team a lot. Actually, in our last podcast, I said that they weren't a contender, but I think I think the Celtics have a really good shot. Um, just you have to have one guy in the playoffs. You're just your guy that you can go to and trust to make the final shot, to make big plays down the stretch. And the Bucks obviously have that with Giannis, but there is holes in his game still. You can't deny it. They're there. I think they can still get by with it like this, but I think as of right now, my pick to make it out of the East is the Boston Celtics.
Okay. Yeah, Boston is an interesting team to me. I put them in my championship threats category, not necessarily my contenders,
Right.
legit contenders category, but I think, I wouldn't be surprised if they make it out of the East. They're the only, I think I mentioned this last podcast, they're the only NBA team to rank in the top four in both offensive and defensive efficiency. On the offensive end, they're scoring 112.9 points per 100 possessions. And on the defensive end, they're only giving up 106 points per 100 possessions, both ranked fourth in the NBA. And in the bubble, they have a plus 9.3 net rating that ranks first in the bubble. So they're playing really well. Jaylen Brown is looking really good as a second fill to Jason Tatum. And they're getting production from their big guys. The front court was a concern coming into this season, given that they lost Al Horford. But, Daniel Tice has been really productive, and even Robert Williams has come in and had a couple really good games. So hopefully, that's the biggest concern with this Boston team. But hopefully, if they can keep that production up, that will help them in making a run at the NBA Finals. Um, in terms of the other teams, I think Toronto has a really good chance. They've clinched their fifth straight 50-win season, and with the win over a shorthanded Bucks team tonight because Giannis was out, but Toronto had Lowry and Ibaka and some other pieces out. Um, they've now gone 25 consecutive calendar months with a winning record in each month. That's by far the longest streak in the NBA. So all they do is win. I mean, over the past 7 years, all they have done is win. And of course, coming off the championship last year, they now have a better record through 69 games this year than they did last year. It's just incredible what Nick Nurse has been able to do with this team. They have the best defense during the NBA restart, only allowing 99 points per 100 possessions. Um, their offense at times has struggled, but I do think they have three guys they can go to for a bucket come playoff time. I think Van Vliet can do that. He can make big shots. I think Lowry can do it. He's proven it last year. And I think Siakam is good enough to do that. So I like their chances. I would still favor Milwaukee just because of we've talked about it time and time again. They have Giannis, who's averaging 30 on 30 minutes. It's incredible. His player efficiency rating ranks first in the NBA. Chris Middleton is starting to come on, looking like his all-star self, and then all the pieces around them. But in terms of the Eastern Conference, I think Toronto has a really good shot, and even though I wouldn't say Boston right now is a legit contender, I would not be surprised if they make a run at it
Right.
at
I
all.
I agree with you on the Raptors. It's just so hard, man. It's so hard to pick,
Yeah,
and I feel like
it's
all
hard
the like
to.
the Bucks, the Raptors, and the Celtics. I feel like they're all at that same level to me. Um, with the Raptors, it's just like it's hard to not pick them to go to 7 games in any given series because you know that their defense will keep them in games no matter who they're playing. So whether their offense plays great or not, they're still going to be in positions to win games. So it's just hard to pick against that. But at the same time, it's just um, if I if I'm to pick, say between Giannis and the star players that the Raptors have to offer, and as great as they are, I think I'd choose Giannis or I'd choose Jason Tatum. It's just I feel like that's just going to be a tough reality they'll
And you
come
have to you have to think
playoff.
that the Bucks will have to have learned from last year's conference finals and what the even though they don't have Kawhi and what the Raptors were able to throw at them and packing the paint. You have to think the Bucks will um, try and counter that now and have learned from that. So maybe they can figure that out. But no, I think either way it shapes out, that second round series between the Raptors and Celtics, because right now they're 2-3, and it'll probably meet up barring something really weird happens
Right.
in the first round. Um, that's going to be a really interesting. That might be the most interesting series that we see up until the conference finals.
Right.
Um, that's going to be interesting because I watched the game a couple of days ago where the Celtics kind of destroyed Toronto. It kind of wasn't close, but it's just one game, so we can't overreact.
Right. Exactly.
Um, what's the time? How much time we got?
Um, 37 minutes in, or
Okay.
38 minutes in.
What are some other NBA storylines you want to mention? Do you have anything else?
Um, let's talk about the Nuggets for a little bit.
Okay.
And then we'll get to the Suns after. We have to mention them. We got to give them some credit where credit is due. But the Nuggets, they're 3-2 in the bubble as of right now. They're playing right now as we're making the pod. But I think if you look at this team long term and not just in through this playoffs, I think they have as bright as a future as any in the entire NBA, given uh, what this big three might look like. Um, Jamal Murray, Jokic, and Porter Jr. And they're going to have Porter Jr. on that rookie contract for another 2 years. So he could be an elite player playing on a really cheap contract for 2 years. That could be really interesting to see. Um, I really like their team. I didn't say that before I saw Porter Jr. play like he's playing right now.
Yeah, I agree. I really like their team. I think if Porter Jr. continues this production, and then you have Jokic and Jamal Murray, and then you bring back Gary Harris and Will Barton back into the mix, I mean, there's your 7, 8 man rotation right there, and it stacks up as top five in the NBA.
Right, exactly.
Um, Now I watched the game against Portland on Thursday. They were missing four regular starters and they rested Jokic. Um, but no, when you so we can't look at that. But then 2 days later, they played the Jazz in a game that went to double overtime. By the way, Donovan Mitchell was incredible in that game.
Right.
The Jazz have surprised me. They've been better than I thought they were going to be coming into the bubble. But we can get to that in a second if we want to. But no, I think Jamal Murray came back. They got him back. He hit a bunch of big shots late in double overtime. They're now tied with the Thunder with a league high 7 wins after trailing by 15 or more. So I mean they can play from behind. Um, I think once their defense, I mentioned this to you, before we started to record this podcast. Their defense is suffering a little bit, but they're missing Gary Harris and Will Barton. But Porter Jr. has picked up the slack offensively. He's the main storyline for Denver, averaging 25 points per game and 12 rebounds on an effective field goal percentage of 66%. Like, that's insane. He's one of 3 NBA players in Orlando since the restart to be recording 50, 40, 90 shooting splits. The other 2 are Duncan Robinson and Chris Middleton. So he's in an elite company there too. And I think his scoring ability and his range as a, 6'9", 6'10" wing, it's a perfect complement to a generational playmaking talent like Nikola Jokic. And you add in that young backcourt and a good coach like Michael Malone. I mean, they could make a run for the conference finals, but they have to have that third wheel in Porter Jr. because I don't think just Murray and Jokic is enough. They have to have that third punch. So
Y'all can mark my words on this. We're gonna move on right after I say this, but I think Michael Porter Jr. has the highest ceiling of this entire rookie class. Y'all can mark my words on that. I truly believe that. And that's over Zion, that's over Ja Morant, that's over anybody you want to say. I still think he has the highest ceiling. And that's saying a lot.
I wouldn't disagree with you. I mean, there's no telling how good he can be. 6'10" wing that has that type of range, it can move and dribble like that. I mean, we didn't get to see him play a lot because he was hurt. He's had problems with his back, a couple other injuries. He was a high school phenom, but we hadn't seen him play a whole lot up until the beginning of 2020 when he came back for a couple games before the shutdown and played decent, but wasn't anything like this.
Right.
This is all-star going on, superstar level play that he's putting up the past couple games. Sorry for the.
You're good, man.
Forgot to silence my phone, but yeah, I think the Nuggets they're going strong.
Yeah, agree, man. Let's move along here. Let's touch on the Suns real quick.
Okay.
There's not much more you can say than just wow. Like they came in that 13 spot coming into the bubble, and I think everybody counted them out. And here they are, 6 games in. They're 6-0, and they've had notable wins against the Clippers. They just blew out the Thunder, and they're rolling. They look great.
I have to let's see. I can talk about Devin Booker. The game-winning shot over Kawhi and Paul George in that Clippers game is absolutely insane. I'm sure I can find some stats on the Suns, but yeah, I think Let's see. They beat OKC, but OKC was shorthanded. They beat a good Miami team. They beat a good Indiana team. They beat a very, very good Clippers team. They beat Dallas. I'll let you talk about Dallas here in a minute. And then they beat Washington. So they beaten some good teams. They beaten some teams who I would say, with their level of talent, they should beat, like the Wizards. Aside from Bradley Beal, I mean, what really is that team? Is Bradley Beal even playing?
No, he's not. He didn't even
Okay,
come.
so like,
And
what
that's
even are the
obviously
Wizards
Thomas.
without Bradley Beal? But no, I mean 6-0. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, that's just the world we live in today. I mean,
Wow.
just look at Major League Baseball. I mean, some of the teams that we thought were going to be terrible are actually playing pretty good. I believe the Marlins are like have a winning record, which is, I mean, they're like 3 or 4 games above 500, and we've played 25% of the season. So it's just, it coming into this, any team could make a run. I mean, that's just how this is going to work out.
Right.
So, I mean, I think Monty Williams has that franchise finally going on the right track. After, years and years of struggling and, missing the playoffs and all this stuff, I think the Suns have found their coach. He's done a really good job with that team, and I believe it's their first 6-game winning streak since 2014. And
Right.
before this, Devin Booker had never won more than 3 games in a row.
Wow.
So,
Wow. That's
so, um, so pretty incredible what the Suns are doing.
yeah, exactly. Um, and it's crazy to see this Ricky Rubio signing turning out to be just the thing that they needed. I think when we made our off-season grades, I gave the Suns like a D or something like that. And look, if you look now, I mean, Ricky Rubio has just been this steadying veteran presence that they needed. And then you look at Cam Johnson. Everybody clowned them for that pick. He's a 24-year-old rookie, older than Devin Booker, and he's been in the NBA for like what 4 or 5 years, and he's been solid. He's shooting 38% from three, and he's okay defensively. So they've just been able to add pieces to fit into the role player spots to where they can have Devin Booker elevate them to a place where they can just win games. And you got to give them some credit. I mean, they've been really, really good.
Before I don't know how much time we're at now, but before we sign off, we have to get your thoughts on your Mavericks. I believe they've locked up the 7th seed in the West, if I'm not mistaken. They got their first playoff berth since when was the last one? Was that when they played the Spurs in the first round?
16, we played the Thunder.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, I mean, just your thoughts on the Mavs. I know you were going to go on this huge rant, and we had planned the podcast for a couple days ago after they lost to the Rockets, but now they've beaten the Bucks, and they've had a couple good wins here as of late. So, just your thoughts on the Mavs before we sign off.
Um, well, I will say that I was really pissed after those first couple losses. We lost to the Rockets, obviously, and then we lost to the Suns back-to-back games. It was only frustrating to me, only because I know we can play better than what we did, but in hindsight, I think it was just the overreaction for me, to be honest. They just needed some time to get their feet under them in the bubble, and I feel like these last couple of games they've really found something in their stride. That Luka has played really well. KP has been great, and that's the one thing that's been great the entire time. It's just this duo finally meshing. That's been great to see. But in terms of where they're at, coming into the playoffs, we need the Spurs to beat the Jazz on Thursday, because if they don't, then we're stuck in the 7th seed and most likely playing the Clippers. So hopefully the Spurs can beat the Jazz. Your Spurs can beat them. So we have that little shot of moving into that 6th spot and playing somebody other than the Clippers.
Yeah. In terms of the Spurs, I think since you talked about the Mavs, I should mention, what the Spurs are up to. I mean, what else? What else do you expect from San Antonio other than to, have them prepared, have the young guys prepared, and have them fight till their last breath to extend this incredible playoff streak. If they can extend it to a record 23 straight years. No, in terms of what they've accomplished so far in Orlando, it's I won't say way exceeded my expectations, but it's definitely exceeded my expectations. And for that matter, Vegas's expectations, because they had the over/under for the Spurs set at 3 wins coming into these seeding games, and they already have 4 wins. And they should have had a 5th, but they let Shake Milton get a 3 late in that Sixers game, and, it's a whole nother story. But in terms of the young talent, they look really good. I really like Derek White averaging over 20 here in the bubble. He showed signs of what he could be last year in that playoff series against Denver. Probably our second or third best player in that series. So yeah, I really like him. I really like the trajectory Murray's on, even though he's not making a ton of shots yet. He's shooting shots, shooting 3-pointers. He's actually a good corner 3-point shooter now, which is good. And he's an all elite defensive player. Both him and White are elite defensive players, so that's exciting that we now have 2 good guards who are good both offensively and defensively. Lonnie Walker, I think, has the most upside in terms of his athleticism and what he can do on the offensive end of the floor. We kind of knew that when we drafted him, but he's cut his
his
pineapple hair off, so his kind of looks different. But no, I think he has some great upside. I really like the second what we got in addition to DeRozan in that Kawhi trade in Jakob Poeltl as a big guy. He's been putting up good production. Had a couple great games here in the restart, averaging double-digit rebounds and points, I think. So in the last couple games, he's been really good. Even Keldon Johnson, our first-round pick this year out of Kentucky, looks really good on the defensive end of the floor, and we can develop him into a really good wing player here, which is much needed for this Spurs team. I do think DeRozan, even though he's playing well, very well, in fact, especially in the fourth quarter, I believe he leads all players in fourth quarter points in the NBA restart. He's played well down the stretch in pretty much every single one of these games, and taken over a couple of them single-handedly. But I do think he's going to opt out. I think we should get out of his contract and just start to acquire more young assets if we can. We should try and trade Aldridge for what we can get for him. It won't be much, but try and get out of his contract as well, and just start to acquire more young pieces to build on what we already have. We already have a really solid, and I think sort of underrated, and understandably so, because it's San Antonio. But not a huge market. People don't, now they're not as good and they don't get as many national TV games as they did a couple of years ago. But yeah, I think we should try and get out of those two contracts and see what we can do to build on this underrated young core that we have.
Right. Um, yeah, I think the Spurs have really revitalized some energy. I think the future of the Spurs before the restart, um, I think everybody's feeling a lot better about it now,
Hmm.
post restart, which is good. I think they needed this, like as a organization, like as a whole. Um, so it'll be interesting to see them in the future. I think they'll be back in the playoffs soon now.
Pop said it.
They be
Pop said it before the restart. He said, we of course we'd love to make the playoffs and extend the streak, but our number one goal here in this bubble is player development, and they're accomplishing that. So they're getting all these young players not only good playing time, but they're playing together and they're starting to build some chemistry, which is good. So that's going to be an important come next year, especially if some of the veteran guys like Patty Mills, Rudy Gay, um, and Demar are all gone. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah. We're about 56 minutes now, guys. I think that's is there anything else you wanted to add, man?
No, I just wanted to say we'll probably be back this week, maybe at least once, maybe twice. I mean, it'll depend on if we want to fit a football episode between now and this weekend when we're probably going to preview the NBA playoffs because we do that every year now. Um, but yeah, it's just going to depend on if we want to talk football. I know there's some big college football stories. The NFL seems to be going forth with their plan for a restart, so maybe we'll need to start talking about that and sort of getting into some of our predictions for that. It's going to be crazy if it happens. We don't know what it's going to look like or how long it will last, but they're going to try. They're going to try and play. So we'll let you know. We'll keep you updated on Twitter. But yeah, that's all I got to say.
Right. Yeah. Uh, and that's gonna do it, guys. This podcast was definitely less scripted, a lot more off the dome. So let us know if you enjoyed. I mean, we can definitely do more content like this. Just saying our opinions and just yeah, just going straight off script. Not off script, but you get the point.
It was a
But
little rusty but yeah, I liked it. I thought there was good energy throughout. It was less scripted, which was good, more of like a conversational tone. Um, Sorry for the interruption, the call. I don't know where that came from, but it happens. We'll clean that up for the next episode, and we'll see you guys next at the latest this weekend for our NBA playoff predictions.
um, like, comment, share, subscribe. All that stuff, and we'll see you when you see you. Peace.